Welcome, welcome. Good afternoon. And if you're looking twice at your screen, nothing is wrong with your computer. I am standing in for Leah Ramsey today, but I'm here on Live with Leah. My name is Rollis Fontenot, and I've got a great guest. We're going to talk about a really cool subject that has to do with staff, employees, how we can build more engagement, culture, recognition, and career development. And I've got a great guest here to join us today, Mr. Anthony Ashby. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So appreciate you being here and giving your time today. And, you know, Anthony, you've got quite the background here. You're actually a VP and COO at CHI Health. And I'd love to hear more about kind of your background, kind of how you got into healthcare. But those of you who are just now signing in, let us know where you're signing in from. Let us know what city and state you're coming from. Perhaps you're even dialing in from another country. So let us know. And we want to have your feedback, your comments throughout today's discussion. Love to hear from you, whether it's questions or just something resonated with you and you want to kind of engage in the discussion. And we'll also have some fun questions we'll ask along the way. So Anthony, tell me a little bit about your background. How did you, first of all, get into healthcare before we get into the main part of our subject? I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah. You know, I kind of fell into it. I always liked numbers and business and things like that. I decided I didn't want to get a business degree, just a general business degree. So I was like, what kind of specialization can I put in on that? So I thought I wanted to do accounting, and I was like, I could be a CPA and I'll kind of just work numbers that way. I ended up realizing about kind of halfway through school, I did some internships and things like that. And I realized I was like, I don't know if this is really for me type of thing. And so one of the things when I went to my advisor, he used to be a CFO at a hospital actually. And he was like, you should look into like healthcare administration. And I was like, at the time I don't even know what that means. I think like most people, it's just, you think hospitals, you think doctors, right. You think nurses, and you don't really realize like all the business that goes behind it. So I just started Googling stuff and found a role at a consulting company and just kind of started from there. I think in addition to that, what's really kept me in healthcare, my grandfather is actually a physician. And I think one of the things while I was going through school and finishing up, he ran into some challenges running his operations from a business perspective. So he's actually in the U.S. Virgin Islands of all places. So a beautiful place to be and practice medicine, obviously. But, he had some small practices and, even a nursing home and things like that, and just ran into a lot of challenges on that administrative business side, which really kind of propelled me to dig more into it and really kind of be the support person for doctors and nurses and all the caregivers and people that provide healthcare, to use my business and kind of numbers background to kind of help support that. So.
Now, it's one thing to know what you want to do and to get an idea of what you want to do, but there's another thing to actually get into it and say, you know what, I'm in the right place. This is the right place for me. So when did that happen for you?
Like I said, it was actually pretty quick into it. I think, honestly, probably within the first year of doing that consulting work, because it was consulting, I was exposed to so many different sides of healthcare on the back end that people don't think about. So things like supply chains and contracts and things like that. And being able to work with not just the business side, but also the physicians and things like that, I could really connect the work I was doing on the administrative side with how it's impacting patient care, even though I wasn't providing patient care. So I really got that feel of I was kind of being like a caregiver for the caregivers, essentially. So it feels good to be able to know you're making an impact, even when you're not directly dealing with the front line or the patients or whoever the customers are.
I love that part about being a caregiver for the caregiver. What does that mean to you? I love that statement.
Yeah, I think, it's a stressful job to provide care. There's a lot of challenges. It's a very regulated environment. There's a lot of different resources and moving parts and things like that. And it could be really challenging and frustrating.
Right.
And there's a lot of emotion. So, when you think about all of the things that go into providing care, there's just so much on the back end that can kind of help or hurt that experience as a provider, whether it's IT issues, whether it's process things that are frustrating people. And I think that's one of the things I've learned that frustrate people the most is, they get that experience. They love being caregivers because of kind of that intrinsic motivation to take care of people. But what really gets in the way of that is just small things. It's administrative things. It's technical barriers, it's equipment barriers, it's process things and challenges and things like that. So being able to kind of help remove those things or ease those things is something I take in pride in, being able to help out providers with that.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay, so we're going to get into the subject. Let me just quickly just make sure that I'm able to see the comments, because I got so engrossed in our conversation I didn't get a chance to look at the comments here. Here we go. Mm-hmm. So we have quite a few that have come in already. Good to see you, Melissa and Joanne and Leah. Of course, Leah, she's looking from afar. She wanted to be here but couldn't actually do it. But she says thanks for hosting and thanks for being our guest. So yes, we appreciate you also chiming in. We got a few folks who are watching as well. In fact, those of you who are just kind of watching us, let us know where you're signing in from, perhaps what city or state or country. Love to hear from you. And as we go along with this discussion, let us know what resonates with you. Perhaps if you have any questions, feel free and pipe in. Even if you're watching the replay, guys, feel free and put in those comments, because we do look at those comments and we do answer them. So we appreciate that. So getting into our first part of our discussion, we're going to talk about engagement. So first of all, what does that term engagement mean to you when we're talking about employees?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the definitions I heard recently, which I really like, is really just the emotional connection with the work you do. Just really being connected with what you're doing on a different level, besides of, knowing the check boxes, clocking in, clocking out, I got to follow this process, but really being emotionally invested in caring about the work you do. And why I love it so much is because I'm highly engaged, and like I mentioned, the work I do, I really, really love it. So I know a lot of people do work that they don't love. So I'm always looking for ways to connect people and, talking with people and finding out, is this what you really want to do? What do you really want to do? Do you not know? I mean, just because I want people to be in a place where they really like what they do, and it may be where they currently are, it may not be, but anyway, I can kind of help get people to the point where they love what they do, because we spend so much time at work. I mean, it's really ridiculous at times. So if you don't like your job, I mean, that's not just a bane on you, but I mean, your family, your friends. I mean, so anything I could do to kind of help people feel connected to their work. So when they come into work, they can feel like they're making a difference. When they go home, they feel, even if you're tired, you feel fulfilled and satisfied that at least you did a little something, hopefully.
Right, exactly. Okay, now give me an idea too of the scope of work where you are currently, you're VP and COO. So give me an idea of the scope of your hospital where you are. What's in your jurisdiction or your purview there, in terms of employees?
Yeah, so my role is actually across 2 hospitals. For the most part, I've been probably the past year or so, I've been focused on one of the hospitals. So Emmanuel in North Omaha, and then we have a hospital across the river, Mercy in Council Bluffs, Iowa. So both of those hospitals, a lot of my work is around the kind of engagement, culture, do a lot of community relations type of work. Then more the technical piece is supporting the clinical ancillary services. So those are the kind of in-between areas that people don't really think about a lot of times of, you have doctors, you have nurses, but then you have the respiratory therapists and the radiologists and the pharmacy techs and the rehab staff. So I support those areas, as well as supporting our security services across our whole market. So I'm responsible for 2 hospitals here in the market, but our market for CHI Health is it's about 15 or so, depending on how many hospitals you count, between Nebraska, Western Iowa, and then also some parts of North Dakota as well.
Now, in those 2 hospitals, roughly how big is the staff in each of those hospitals, roughly?
Yeah, I mean, I think staffing, depending on who you count, I mean, probably like 1,500 to 2,000 maybe between the 2. It's always nuanced, depending if you're counting, PRN people part-time. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of shared staff and things like that. So.
Very good. Okay, so it gives an idea of the organization. So those who are watching, you kind of get an idea what we're talking about in terms of the scope. And then in terms of, what's going on at your hospital versus you're part of a much larger system, not only in the regional area, but just the overall CHI umbrella. How do you kind of compensate those? Because you've got the larger view of the larger culture, and then you've got it down to the regional, and then you've also got it down to your 2 hospitals, and then maybe even down to your department. Yeah. Maybe you can kind of give an idea of what are your observations there? How do you navigate between all those different sometimes competing. Sometimes they don't always align 100%. So
yeah, that's a very good point, and I definitely think it's a real part of kind of what we deal with on a day to day. So CHI Health being part of CHI, which is a larger national organization, and then recently, a couple years ago, CHI merged with Dignity Health and created Common Spirit. So very, very large organization, and I think really trying to standardize where you need to standardize, but then also finding ways to where people can kind of customize and put their own spin, and finding that balance of what that is. I think it's just an ongoing thing. I think there's just so many cultures within cultures. Like you mentioned, it's just there's the market, and then there's our specific hospital, and then even within departments, there's its own kind of culture. So I think one of the things that we really work with is, how do we connect with the frontline staff, and we're truly trying to help people engage across departments, because I think the work we do is so complicated. I don't think people always realize necessarily how complicated it is. There's so many different people that are involved. I saw one stat that said sometimes a patient will experience up to 72 people during an inpatient hospital stay, and that could be food services, that's nurses that are changing, that's different doctors, that's a cardiologist, that's a neurologist, that's maybe a second neurologist. And so it's a lot going on. So, and I think what a lot of people might not realize is, like, even at the hospital level, I mean, if you work in a certain area, you're not spending a lot of time, understanding what other areas do. You kind of clock in, you clock out. You might not even see other places of the hospital. So really being intentional of connecting people with their peers, because when I think about a lot of times is why I focus so much on engagement, there's just a natural disconnect just from peer perspective of senior leaders and frontline staff, where we're a very small few people in the hospital that are actually responsible for looking at the whole hospital itself, whereas the 90-some% of the people that are working there only have to worry about their job, their department, their hours. So trying to help people kind of connect the dots and expand beyond of just how does your area connect with this area, and how does that all connect with the overall mission and the overall vision of the hospital and the larger organization. So I think it's an ongoing battle there. But I think we're winning that battle for the most part. But there's definitely always opportunity to kind of cross-pollinate and kind of grow that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're talking about this, you reminded me of a recent interview I had with someone who brought up a point. I think you'll agree with this, is that even though in the hospitals we think of it by department, like what's going on with my department and how we did with our patients, versus the patient, the way they think of it is they think of it as the hospital. Yeah. So it's like, I got treated great at this hospital. They don't say I got treated great by the ER department versus the med surg, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even at that level, I think that could be a gift and a curse, because if somebody has an amazing experience, not even just at your hospital, when your brand is across multiple hospitals, a lot of people will just associate it with the brand. So if I have a great experience at CHI, it's just CHI is awesome wherever I see CHI at. But at the same time, you could have a poor experience somewhere, and you're going to associate that with the whole brand a lot of times, because people don't compartmentalize. Oh, that was this hospital. This is this clinic. It's different people that run it. I mean, people connect the whole organization. That's a very good point. From the patient perspective, we're all one people.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Gwen joining us. Gwen Chambers, glad to have you. She says, looking forward to learning something new today. So glad you're here with us, Gwen. Yeah. Feel free and pipe in. She's got some great things she usually offers as well. Okay, so kind of going on to our next point, I want to talk about recognition. That's such an important part of this, and perhaps that's maybe could be part of the culture, right? A culture of recognition. So first of all, when you hear the word recognition, or the way you practice it in your organization, what does that mean to you?
I mean, when I think of it, it's just several different layers of it. I mean, it's formal, it's informal. When I think about recognition, I really think about rounding and connecting with the staff. And I think some of the most powerful recognition is just really, having a conversation with somebody and listening and being able to reflect back and, hearing something, what they say. I really appreciate the way you put that, or what you said there, or what you're doing. And I think those are the most meaningful. But then you also have, different layers of formal recognition, whether that's weekly, monthly, quarterly, So making sure it's very diverse. Sometimes, people want to hear from their leaders. Sometimes people want recognitions from the patient or their peers, or there's so many different kind of layers to it. I think sometimes it can get challenging. So one of the things I like to focus on is, how do we, really engage people and asking them how they would like to be recognized. So I think we really try to do that at a personal level with our department leaders and things like that. Because, some people don't want to be recognized in front of people. Some people just take a pat on the back, and, some people might want something a little more elaborate. Like I want everybody to see I'm getting recognized. So really being intentional about just kind of that ongoing understanding of who wants to be recognized when and how to balance it. Because I've also worked in places where, there's too many recognitions, and then people don't even kind of fully understand the recognitions. There's one for this, there's one for that, there's one for this. It seems like there's 3 for this one, and it just kind of doesn't balance out, and then it starts to water things down. So like I said, it's kind of a ongoing balancing game, really, to find that sweet spot. But I think you really got to work with the staff, and because you don't know you got it right until people that are receiving the recognitions let you know you got it right. So.
Yeah, that's the thing I was curious about. Is like, how do you know if you're giving enough or not, or not enough, or if it's public or private? How do you know which ones to do that with? What are you using as a barometer, or a way just figuring that out? I'm curious.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been working on building even stronger is our employee engagement ambassadors. Is really having each department have a kind of go-to representative from their areas from an engagement perspective. So monthly we meet with those team members, myself and HR, so we have senior leader support, and just really get feedback on, how things are going in general, what they're hearing. There might be some challenges or frustrations we're working on, what's going well, who can we thank. So we write thank yous from that group of those groups of peers for their peers that they recognize for doing awesome things. So really creating that structure to have a kind of committee of frontline people that are kind of that sounding board for us. Another thing that we've been really intentional with as a senior leadership team is really just being intentional about harvesting thank yous and getting those back to the people that are recognized. Because sometimes I think a lot of times we hear stuff and I don't think that person might always know. So like we get comments in our Press Ganey patient experience survey, or there might be an email or a phone call that came in to administration, or maybe we're just rounding. We have a rounding process and we heard a patient mention somebody's name, or we heard a staff member mention somebody's name. So everybody being very intentional, like once a week when we come to our senior leadership meeting, we have a whole bunch of letters written out that we kind of read and review and sign and mail those directly to people's houses. And I've actually myself been the recipient of one. And to be honest, like I'm not a big recognition person, so that's just something I have to really focus on. I don't really kind of lean toward recognition and being recognized myself. But I remember when I received one, and I knew everybody, and I knew we'd do this, and I was like, man, that's kind of cool. And I was like, I know those people, but I can't imagine if I was a frontline staff member and you're getting a letter from somebody in administration, the president signing it, the vice president, and it's like I didn't even know those people knew who I was. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's got to be powerful. Okay, so I've got a question for you, and this is a would you rather question. Are you okay with that? Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. All right. So, guys, in the comments, I want you to also answer this as well when I ask you which one would you go with and why. Okay. Would you rather? Let's see, Anthony. Would you rather have your parachute not open all the way, so you come down twice as fast? Only to land 20 foot in a 20-foot high pile of straw, or to land in the deep end of somebody's swimming pool?
I don't know, man. Is the swimming? I'm a very thoughtful person. Is the swimming? Am I still have a parachute landing in the swimming pool?
You're landing in the parachute, yes, in the deep end of somebody's swimming pool. Either that, or you went twice as fast, only to land in a 20-foot high pile of straw to help take some of the G-force there away.
Yeah, I'm trying to do physics in my head, and that's not my strong suit. I would say I'm just a very logical numbers person. I would say I feel like the straw. I feel like I've hit water for some pretty high heights, and it's it's pretty hard. So I'll maybe straw will be better. I don't know.
That is a good. I think you might have me sold on that one. I think that's a good point because I've done one of those little when I used to try and dive when I was young. I was trying to learn how to dive.
Mm-hmm.
I did one of those belly flops where you hit it straight on, and that does
like
not
concrete.
feel good.
Yeah,
That does not feel good. Okay, and you mentioned you're a numbers person. I want to dive into that a little bit more, but before I do that, let me just see if I have someone who's responded in the comments. Because in the comments, whether you're watching live or the replay, we want to know which one would you go with. Would you go with the 20-foot high pile of straw, or would you go with somebody's swimming pool? Now, in the meantime, Gwen says, regarding recognition, Anthony is spot on about finding how individuals want to be recognized. Definitely a great way to respect people and what's important to them. That is so true. And you said even yourself, you're not really that big into recognition. What drives you? Because I know there's other people who you have in your employ that are like you to some extent. So what drives you? If it's not necessarily recognition, although it did affect you positively when you got that letter.
Yeah.
What is it drives you?
Yeah, I just, like I said, I think what's really got me into leadership is really just helping other people out. So when I feel like I've made a difference in somebody's work day, and a lot of times that doesn't really necessarily come from a thank you. I think just even today I was doing some rounding, and one of the things I've learned is that just your presence as a senior leader means a lot more than I think we'd like to admit. Because I don't want to be like, oh yeah, when I come around, people are gonna get excited. Some people get scared and they're like, why are you here? Maybe, but I think just having that presence and coming around, and you could tell that kind of energy it brings. And like I said, maybe not formal thank yous, but I mean, whenever I feel like I've helped somebody, whether it's personally, whether it's talking them through a challenge they have, or maybe it's work related, just whenever I can kind of be helpful. And I usually try to sense that without getting any kind of formal recognition. But I just like helping. I just like serving whatever way possibly I can do that.
Well, being as that's the kind of person you are, I would imagine it might make it a little bit easier for you to give recognition to people who are similar to you, because what you just described about yourself describes a lot of people who I've talked to in healthcare. Yeah. They're really they're just caregivers. And like you said, you're a caregiver to the caregivers. So they're all about helping others, and they do appreciate it when they get that feedback, maybe directly from that person, but maybe they're not as motivated for some other big production.
Yeah.
I have this question for you here. If you could take a 2-day crash course in any field of endeavor, what would it be?
2-day crash course, man.
Guys in the comments, I want you to answer the same thing. Let me know.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. I know one thing, I don't know if I'd want to. I remember when I was younger, I used to draw a lot of like forts and things like that. I had like a whole almost portfolio of different like forts and things I would sketch out. And I remember in high school, I took a CAD class, and I was like, I think I want to be an architect. And I always like appreciate like architects and civil engineers that putting together buildings and things like that. I did it in school a little bit, and it got a little too technical for me. And I was like, maybe this is too much numbers. I like numbers, but not this far. But I think that'd probably be
that's a good one.
Probably be that one. Or like culinary arts. I wanted to go to culinary school originally, but trying to be kind of logical, I was looking at the job market. I was like, maybe it's more safe to get a traditional degree, and then I can always go into kind of culinary arts and restaurant stuff later in my career. So I've always been passionate about food and cooking.
Oh yeah, I love food. What's your favorite kind of food?
I don't know, man. It's tough. I always like to try new stuff. I'd probably say Italian.
Oh yeah, I love Italian.
Yeah,
I love Italian. Okay, now what you just mentioned brings up something that is very real in healthcare, and I've talked to several nurses about this, and that's interest outside of work. Yeah. So although you love what you do, you love being a caregiver of caregivers, and you love the organization you work for, it still doesn't negate any interest you have outside of work. You just named two very different things. You were building a fort, which is kind of cool, and then you also mentioned the cuisine, right? Being able to to dabble in that. So those are interests that are outside of work. So I'm curious, what do you do at your hospital or perhaps in your organization to help encourage people who do have outside interests outside of work to pursue those to a degree? Because, it's not, the whole person is more than just what we do at work, as you'll agree. So is there anything along those lines you've done or you can think of?
Yeah, well, I mean, nothing specific comes to mind of stuff that's done, but I know there's several things we're working on right now. I know one of our staff members that's actually part of that employee ambassador group that I mentioned. They said, we should have a talent show. She's like, that would be awesome if we did a talent show. And I was like, you think people would be interested in that? And she was like, yeah. I was like, I know I would. I was like, well, I mean, worst case, we can just kick it off and just see what kind of interest there is. So, I mean, we found out there's people that play all kinds of instruments, and there's people twirling batons and all kinds of stuff you would have never thought people had skills at. So that's something we're working on incorporating in this year. And then also one of the other things is community relations. So we're doing we have a lot of focus on taking our mission outside the walls into the community. So really partnering with communities, community members, and also community organizations that may have nothing to do directly with healthcare. But, one of the things we know is, health is impacted by everything from housing to education to employment and things like that. So we work with a lot of different organizations in the community, and really making sure to connect our employees with them, and then also find out what our employees are already connected to. I mean, there's a lot of employees that have a green thumb and they love doing gardening and different things like that. So I think just being intentional about having those conversations. We're really focused right now on looking to see kind of what hospital members are on different boards and what those organizations are, and how we can kind of, connect what those organizations do, and, do a lot of different, tours, have people come see the things we do, and then also vice versa, go see the things they do, and, check out their spaces and what kind of goes on. And like you said, everybody kind of has that second side of them, and it's really important to really tap into that, because that's what really kind of keeps people going, is when their whole identity isn't their job, for sure.
Exactly. And that's why I ask I used to ask these questions. I was like, should I ask these crazy questions? And everybody keeps telling me, yes, you should. Yeah. Because it gives me an opportunity to really know our guests in a different way. So thank you for being such a good sport with that. Yeah. I did want to ask you about career development and professional development. What are your thoughts on those two areas?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are huge. And I think, it's really been essential in my career growth personally. Like I said, starting off in consulting, one of the things that was interesting about my role is that it wasn't a large consulting firm. So it wasn't kind of like you fly out Sunday, fly back Thursday kind of deal. I was really just kind of like picking up and moving different places where I was working. So originally from Baltimore. So I'm gonna shout out a few cities. Maybe some people will be from there. Originally from Baltimore. Went to high school in Fairfax, outside of Northern Virginia, outside of DC, in Northern Virginia. Worked in Denver, Portland, lived in Southern California. Most recently, I was in Dallas. So my wife and I were living in Dallas there. So I think that's been huge, because every city I've moved into, the American College of Healthcare Executives, and then NASE, National Association of Health Service Executives, getting involved with those organizations that are across the nation and have chapters in most major cities. It really kind of created that pipeline where I can get into a brand new city, not know anybody, and be able to network and meet peers and kind of understand the lay of the land and start building my experiences. And I think I've always tried to encourage people and continue to encourage people to engage in that work. Because I think a lot of times we tell people to network, but it's a really soft term. So, I mean, it's not just going to an event and, having a glass of wine and exchanging business cards, but really learning from those conversations. So like what we're doing, I mean, if you talk to somebody about their experience and, learning from their experiences, and, they may have similar problems that maybe they address differently, or maybe a whole different problem that maybe helps you reflect on the way you do things and things like that. So just from an informal perspective, it's extremely helpful. But then also working with, like ACHE specifically is, certifications and things like that, and getting involved with committees and giving back to the industry itself is very, very powerful, because there's, like, my role specifically being an administrator, there's not necessarily a clear path to get here. I mean, there is, but the opportunities are very slim. Traditionally, if you wanted to, you could be an administrative intern and then you become a resident and a fellow, and then you move up that way. But there's very few of those opportunities, honestly, across the nation. So a lot of times you're just kind of trying to find your way there. So I'm always eager to kind of help people out and kind of talk people through my journey and try to give advice and also learn from them in terms of kind of what they're seeing and what they're working on and how do they kind of get to the next level and, maybe frustrations they have. And, if I could share any kind of similar experiences and advice that kind of help them through their journey, I'm always glad to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because you're right. There just really isn't a clear path in a lot of organizations to get there. And so I do get a lot of questions on how do I get there? I want this type of role, and it's a type of role a lot of times that what you specifically have now. So what's some of the advice of how you, let's say I've got my MBA and let's say I have my my concentration in healthcare and I want to work in healthcare, but I'm having a difficult job just finding something that's in line that would give me that track towards that management direction. So what's some advice you would give to someone who's in those shoes, and perhaps we can help some of them who may be watching?
Yeah, I think there's two things really. One thing I think is the most powerful, which I think some people are kind of scared to do, is just really kind of just cold reach out to people. I mean, LinkedIn is an amazing tool. I mean, there's tons of people on LinkedIn, and you can see somebody is like, hey, you kind of follow their content, their posts, and you see their job title, and you're like, I kind of want to do that. Shoot them a message. I don't know how many times I've got messages from people saying, hey, this is what I'm doing now. This is what I'm looking to do. It seems like you've kind of been down that path. I'd love to kind of talk to you to hear more about your journey. If you have any advice, people do that to me a lot. Like I said, I think people could do it a lot more, but I do that myself. I mean, if somebody, I see something cool somebody's doing, I'm a serial learner, a serial collaborator. So anytime somebody posts something of something I'm working on or I'm interested, I'll shoot them a message, and you'd be surprised how receptive and responsive people are. I think one of the things as I've progressed further in my career, I think people that you like I said, with that disconnection of maybe your frontline and then there's leadership, leadership feels so far away, but then realize, I mean, they're just regular people.
Right.
We're all regular people, have regular lives and challenges and barriers and frustrations and things like that. So just really put yourself out there and reach out to people. Like if they don't respond, I mean, that's the worst thing that could happen. There's tons of people out there that'll be willing to respond, and I'll give out my email, my phone number, whatever case may be, and just kind of have conversations with people and let them pick my brain and I also pick their brain, because they're coming up in a time, a lot of times in a space where, I'm trying to, we're trying to retain or recruit staff members that are like them and, better understanding what they're looking for, what their challenges are, wherever they're at. So there's that. And then also, I would say when you're in your current role is really to look for special projects and try as best you can to expand out of your role even a little bit as much as you can. So that's why it's really important to look for a leader that's willing to allow you to do that. Because I've been blessed to have a leader that's really, if I'm interested in something, I could just kind of tack onto a project where it's not directly what I'm doing, but it seems interesting, and I like to kind of expand my knowledge and just kind of better understand certain things. So like I said, everything is so complex. I don't know a lot about the insurance side of things, so it would be nice to know a little bit of that. So let me get involved in that. I learned from a lot of people that there's a lot of leaders out here that don't really like that, and they really want people to kind of really stay in their lane. So I think that's something to really look for and test as you're coming up in your career, is to find somebody that's willing to support you to get to the next level and kind of expand your skills. Because the thing is, I would say, is you're not going to get to the next level just by doing your job well by itself. I mean, you have to show that you can do beyond what's your job for people to kind of give you that look. So the more you can kind of expand yourself and get your name out there in different areas of your organization or in the community, I think the better off you'll be.
I love that. This is great stuff. And then I've actually gotten that same advice from a couple of other folks like yourself. And so there seems to be a common point here amongst you leaders, that you didn't just wait for that next job. You volunteered, you stepped forward for certain projects to give you visibility in front of those leaders. So I love that. Now I do have one quick check-in. I just want to make sure, Are you 6 feet apart from anyone else right now? Because you got that sign behind you. I want to make sure we're following the sign.
I'm well beyond 6 feet. I'm in a conference room by myself, so absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, I have another question for you here. And guys, in the comments, if you have any questions for us as we go along, we'd love to hear from you. We're having a great conversation about employee engagement and culture recognition, as well as professional development. And I want to tap into those organizations you mentioned here in just a moment, ACHE and NASI. So my follow-up question to you is another question. What's one site or place that blew you away when you first saw it in person because of how tall, massive, or grandiose it was compared to how you envisioned it? And guys in the comments, I want you to answer the same question, please. We'd love to hear it. You might expose us to something we didn't even know about. What surprised you?
You know, I probably have a very low bar for this. I'm afraid of heights, so everything is too far. Like if I'm at the mall on the second level, I'm not going to get close to the edge to look down to the next level.
I feel you on that one. I feel you on that one.
I think one of the there's two tall places just kind of locally that was pretty interesting. In Toronto, we went into the CN Tower and had dinner up there. It was kind of like a revolving space up there, and that was pretty cool. It had a glass elevator getting up there, so I naturally turned away from the elevator, was facing the wall the whole way up. So between that and then I lived in Denver for a little while. So just is the thing about mountains, it's interesting from a distance. You can't really get the full scope. And then while you're driving up them, you really don't feel like you're going up a mountain. So you get to a certain point and you look away and you're like, man, everything is so far away. So being in Denver really put a lot of that in perspective, and being able to go through the mountains and things like that there.
Oh yeah, you reminded me. We went to visit one of our clients. I was doing a video shoot and everything. It was up in Vail, Colorado, and they said, "Listen, you should go up this mountain and check this out. It's a really cool view, and you're going to go across this bridge. It's a really neat little bridge." I was like, "Oh, that sounds great." And it's snowing, right? It's a snowing area. Now it wasn't snowing at the time. It just got through snowing. I'm just in a regular 4-door sedan, no special tires or anything. And I'm going up this mountain and I'm going up and up and up and up and up. And finally I just like, and it's just at the edge. There's not much, but there's like very little between me and the edge of the mountain. Yep. It's my wife and I. And I got to a point, my hands were so sweaty going up that mountain. I was like, I got to turn around. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's just too far.
Way. So the sketchier the ride gets, the more, I mean, I don't know how many places I've been where there's like, you're high up and there's no guardrail and it's like barely a little lane, and it's just, I was like, this is enough for me.
Yeah, I was like, no, sir. I'll do without that experience today. Another one that surprised me too is here locally in Houston. We had this thing called the Astrodome, right? It's still there actually, and that was like the 7th one in the world. It's this huge place, all that. I always thought this place was massive. When I heard they're building this place called NRG Stadium, which is where the Houston Texans play now, I was like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. They said how many were in it and all that. Okay, great. It wasn't until I drove up to see how big it literally dwarfs the Astrodome. The Astrodome was like a little brother compared to the NRG Stadium. So that had to impress me as to how grandiose
everything looks small until you get close, man.
Exactly. Okay, so going back into our subject here, you talked about some really cool organizations. You talked about ACHE, which I know that you're a fellow of. And then you've also got the NASI organization. Tell me about the advantages of both those organizations, especially if someone is looking to kind of take their career from the administrative standpoint to the next level, how each of those organizations help. Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things we've been focused on specifically is actually like just getting more awareness across individuals of different levels of their career. Because one of the things that I never really fully noticed is that both of those organizations have executives in the end of their title. So we've actually found from a lot of people that are students and not executives that, hey, I didn't know that was for us. I didn't know we could join. So, ACHE is, I think it's about 48,000, almost 50,000 members across the country and the world, actually. NASI, I like to compare NASI is kind of like, I think a lot of us are familiar with affinity groups and ERGs. So NASI is a organization. It's been around since 1968, actually.
national organization dedicated to advancing Black healthcare leaders specifically. It's not limited to Black people as members, but that's the main focus, is advancing Blacks in healthcare, which are underrepresented, and also helping with health equity in the Black community. At a national level, ACHE and NACI, and even at the local level, partner very closely on similar work in developing healthcare leaders, whether it's Black, white, or there's also other groups within ACHE that ACHE partners with, Asian American groups, LGBTQ, NALI, which is actually like the Hispanic Latino group counterpart for healthcare executives. So a lot of different groups doing a lot of cool things. There's a lot of just ongoing education and training and things like that. And like I said, there's just so much value in being able to connect and be that close to people at different levels of their career and places that you aspire to be in your career, and also to be part of a network that's just nationwide, so you can go anywhere and kind of meet somebody and get involved with a kind of a fraternity of sorts. It's just really collaborative. And like I said, just ongoing education and things like that to help people with similar challenges share their ideas, share their learnings, certifications and things like that. It really helps. And one of the things when I was progressing through my career, it's like I always looked at, and I was always constantly looking at like the job descriptions of the next job I wanted. So just looking at other places and not, if I wanted to be a VP, what are they asking of VPs? What are they really looking for? And I started to notice a lot of things, with executives and presidents and things like that. A lot of organizations are starting to put fellow or member of ACHE as preferred. I've even seen it as required on some roles for presidents to be fellows of ACHE. So it can really help propel your career for sure. I remember specifically when I got my fellowship from ACHE, I was in between jobs and I was on the search. And I remember as soon as I flipped that and was able to put that on my resume, I got 3 times more callbacks as I previously did. I mean, it was pretty, like it was almost immediate. So I mean, I think people in the industry really look for it. And yeah, like I said, I would encourage everybody to go check it out. There's chapters all over the place. I just helped found a chapter of NACI here locally in Omaha, but our spread is actually very broad regionally, covering Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, Kansas, and Kansas City actually, because there's a chapter of NACI in St. Louis and then one in Denver. But between there hasn't been much coverage. So really looking at kind of to help building a talent pipeline of Black healthcare leaders and executives to kind of develop in this region.
So tell me about the get the fellow, the FACHE designation. What's involved with that? What are the prerequisites, and then what are the requirements to complete that? It's
there's a few different levels of it, and one of the things I encourage people is to look at it early, because you can start working towards the requirements before you don't need to be a executive to start even looking at it. Even as a student, I mean, a lot of it's continuing education type credits. So participating in events that your local chapter or nationally with ACHE, volunteering, other things are, letters of recommendation. So that's where the networking piece comes in, being able to get a recommendation from some people that are already fellows and building those relationships. And then kind of like the final main piece is actually like a test. It tests you in 10 different areas, whether it's leadership, communication, healthcare law, all kind of just to make sure as a healthcare leader you have a little bit of a diverse understanding, at least at a high level, of all the various kind of complexities in healthcare. So I would encourage people, if you just kind of Google it or go on the ACHE site, there's a whole list of kind of the requirements, and just really start getting engaged. Reach out to your local chapter. All the chapters are amazing that I've been in, and just really helpful in looking to kind of help connect you with what you're looking to find. I actually just posted a poll recently for our local chapter to see what kind of content people are looking for. At first, it was really a lot of leadership things people were looking for, but now I'm seeing a lot more kind of communications and relationships coming in on the poll. So just really trying to understand what people are looking for and be able to provide that content to kind of help them advance.
Yeah, I see you're quite active, on the LinkedIn platform. I see quite a bit of your content here. It's awesome. Let me ask you this. There's a lot of executives who don't really do much in terms of posting on LinkedIn. What helped you to make the decision to actually do that?
You know what? Honestly, I didn't even have somebody just one of, I wonder, I don't know if he's ever going to see this, but I might text him afterwards. He joked with me like last week. He sent me a message. He was like, man, you didn't have a LinkedIn until like 2 years ago. And he's like, now you like surpassed everybody I know. He's like, you're all over LinkedIn now. You never even had a profile. I'm not a big social media person. So I don't do Facebook. I got rid of my Facebook in probably like a year or two into college. I don't do Instagram or anything like that. So LinkedIn is just kind of my jam. I just really, like I said, moving throughout the country and just really understanding, how powerful networking is, and to be able to leverage LinkedIn from a perspective of you can connect with people that you don't actually physically have to meet, and just learn so much from people of, different things that you would never kind of experience. So it's really an amazing platform. Like I said, people are so open to connecting and sharing information and learning. I don't know how many times I've reached out to people that turned into a conversation where, they sent me a PowerPoint presentation that they did, and then I sent them something I did, and we kind of still connect and talk about different things we're working on. So I really just kind of dove into it, and just really, I started to see the value in it. So I just started to do it more, which I think I would encourage a lot of people to do is, just, try stuff out. I mean, you don't know, you kind of get in what you kind of get out what you put into it. So, I mean, just try it, and then, just go at it full speed, and usually it will evolve into something more than you would have expected. So yeah, I kind of just fell into it and just kind of took off really.
That's awesome. I love that you did it, and please keep up the good work, because you're setting a great example for others. And also on top of that, you're showing up on video right now. You're showing up live.
Yeah.
And so that's great too. And that all came from, like you said, just connecting, because I think you and Leah had connected, and y'all were communicating, and then next thing we know, we get you scheduled on the show, and here I am interviewing you today.
Yep. Yeah, it all kind of spirals, and it's crazy how things connect from one thing to other, and it just kind of grows and expands.
Yeah, I think it's going to help too. I think it's going to help executives to get outside of their current circle, if you will.
Yeah.
Because we know how that happens, is that, it's kind of the same like me complex. They may be hanging with a certain group, and they may not have exposure to other diverse candidates that they may not even, wouldn't have had exposure to. But LinkedIn kind of gives more of a level playing field, where you get a chance to know other people that are outside of your current maybe limited network. And I think it could help diversity. What do you think about that? Do you think there's just been prospects there for that?
Oh, absolutely. I think just in general, like I said, I've always tried to encourage people to expand their perspective outside their own organization, which I think is huge, especially in healthcare, because I think, we all, to this similar extent, I mean, the hospital you're working in and a hospital somebody might be working all the way across the country, you have a different market, but there's a lot of similar focuses. I mean, we're all looking at patient experience, we're all looking at quality outcomes, and just understanding how, people do things differently. There's a million different ways to do anything. I mean, it's hard to kind of think that way sometimes, because, everything is so highly regulated. You would think there's not, there's only certain ways to do things. But I mean, once you talk to people and you realize how people are able to accomplish certain things in certain ways, and it can really, just that exposure. And that's kind of like the key principle for our NASI chapter. It's just exposure, just exposing people to what's out there, and just kind of expanding your mind. And it doesn't have to be far away. If you're in Omaha, what's one of the organizations down the street doing? Or maybe Kansas City is pretty close. So just kind of branching out there and seeing what's out there.
Okay, so I've got a question. This is a food question for you.
Yeah.
You ready? Okay, guys, in the comments, let me know if let me know what your answer is on this. Let me know which one you'd go with. So, would you rather, if you came home to find out that a prankster has nailed all your windows shut, or has taken the labels off all of your canned goods? Which one would you go with?
Oh man.
Like, surprise, surprise, what your canned goods.
So would I rather have all my windows shut or my can labels removed? I would say the windows. I don't really use the windows much. I just look at them.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you on that. You're right. So you're such a pragmatist. You look at it, you just
I analyze stuff too. I don't have fun with these questions like this. So my wife tries to ask me like hypothetical questions, and she's like, "Why are you really thinking about this? Like, you're trying to do the math, and you're like pulling out a calculator. And it's like, that's just, I don't know how else to answer questions.
It's good. It's good. I didn't think about that, but that's a good point. I don't use my, I can't remember the last time I opened up one of my windows. So that's a good point.
I mean, unless there was a fire, I mean, you might have a problem. But.
Well, yeah, that would be problematic. If you couldn't open them for that reason. Well, that's a very, very good answer. But I was also thinking about the fun of just like opening up a canned good, not knowing what you're going to open because none of the labels are there. So I don't know what I'm going to have for dinner.
It sounds like something like I should do this weekend, just as like a random medley. Like, we're going to have for dinner. We're just going to pull stuff out of cans and see who we can. Like Food Network.
Exactly. Okay. So I want to ask you another follow-up question before we end here today is, if you were to give advice to the 15-year-old version of yourself, of Anthony, what advice would you give to that version of Anthony?
You know what? I've thought about this recently, and I think one of the things is just don't stop learning. I think that's something that I've never stopped doing. It's just always learning, always looking to learn, and look for your passion, really. I mean, I think a lot of people spend their whole life, and sometimes some people never really find it. So, I mean, you can't really know your passion until you put yourself out there, until you expose yourself to different things and try new things, and just always evolving. Just there's always more to learn. There's more to know. There's more people to meet. There's more things to do. So just really, never stop and just, keep going. I think one of the things I tell people is I always look for, I struggle with the formal interview process, because what I really do is like having conversations like these, and what I really gravitate towards is somebody that's like really passionate. You can tell when people really like what they do and they love the work they do. And that's really what I look for, because if they don't have as long as they have the basic skill set, if you don't have certain pieces, if you're passionate about it, you're going to figure it out. So find something you're passionate about. It doesn't matter if you're the best at it. But that's what's really going to matter in the long run, in terms of, you being satisfied and, feeling like you're making a difference, and that you like going to work, or whatever it is you do on a daily basis, and that you're kind of contributing and giving back and kind of using all the gifts that were given to you. So just keep learning and be passionate, for sure.
Love that. You mentioned, it's interesting you mentioned earlier about a talent show, because I mentioned this to 4 CNOs on one of my CNO roundtables, and I asked them about this. Should we look at having a talent show? And they said unequivocally yes. They were like, yes, we would love to get involved. Let us know. So since you mentioned a talent show, I guess, should I add you to my list if we do some kind of talent show in connection with our live shows? What do you think?
I don't know. I think one of my hidden talents, and I don't know how this would show up. I mean, I grew up playing ice hockey, which is kind of a rare thing. Not a lot of people play ice hockey, especially not a lot of African Americans. So that's probably my.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but yeah.
That's my hidden talent, but I don't know how that would show up on that. I mean, I can show some videos and some pictures, maybe.
Well, at least, you guys can figure it out, but maybe you can have a representative from your hospital. Y'all can, when you have what you could do is maybe at your talent show at your hospital, the winner.
Yeah, we'll pick the winner and send it to the Nationals.
The national one, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
because I'm going to end up having hospitals all over the country.
We're down for it. We're down for it.
Okay, great. That sounds good. Well, listen, how should folks connect with you? If they want to connect with you, should they do it through LinkedIn? Is there somewhere else you want to send them? You want to send them to your email? How do you want them to interact with you? I think
LinkedIn is probably the best place. I mean, people shoot me a message. I'm always looking and I always respond. And I provide any kind of follow-up emails of, email addresses and even phone numbers and things like that. So LinkedIn is probably the best place for sure. So check me out on LinkedIn and Anthony Ashby, and hopefully I got some good content that'll be helpful. And hopefully, if you connect with me, I could provide some things that are helpful for you, and then maybe you have some things that I can learn from you for. So that's why I really like to encourage people to reach out to me. Is I love learning from people and their experiences. There's just so much out there to know. So.
Yeah, I suggest definitely connecting with Anthony, especially now that he's given you the invitation to do so. I'm connected with Anthony, and I've really enjoyed being connected with you and watching some of your content as well. Definitely appreciate what you're doing, and please keep up the great work.
Appreciate it. Likewise.
And speaking of connecting, you know, I had a video just the other day. You can tell me your thoughts on this. I think that the future is bright for LinkedIn versus, let's say, Indeed when it comes to jobs, because LinkedIn is different in that you can actually research and see the people who are posting the jobs, or perhaps whoever you're connected with. And as a candidate, you can actually post your own videos so that the employers could see you. I'm just curious to get your thoughts. What do you think about the future of it?
I saw that video you posted, and I definitely do agree. I think one of the things that I've learned also as I progressed through my career, the content you put out, building that brand. We didn't really talk about that, but LinkedIn really helps you kind of build that brand outside of just like, hey, here's my resume and here's what I do as a job. Like really showing your passion and your values and, you know, your comments and everything people see. It gives people a better idea to round out who you are and to understand you. And I've had people to reach out to me, you know, from other organizations unprompted. There's recruiters out there. There's all kinds of things out there that you can get connected with. And I think that interaction piece that LinkedIn has is definitely more powerful, I think, than Indeed has, being able to really just connect with people where you find that job and you can find who's posting it. You can learn more about the organization. You could follow the feed. You could find other people in that organization maybe and reach out to them and even, you know, get references sometimes, or get connected with people that might not be the hiring managers but might work there and things like that. So it's extremely helpful for that, for sure.
Awesome. And you know, folks who are watching, we didn't get paid by LinkedIn to say that. We just like it. We really like the platform. Very good. So Anthony, it's a pleasure. I tell you, I was already glad to be connected with you, but I'm even that much more happy about it now that I've got a chance to speak with you for a while. So thank you for the time you spent with us, myself, and our audience today.
Likewise. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so don't go away. We're just going to go ahead and say bye to all the folks in the audience. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching today. And let us know. Yeah, let us know in the comments what resonated with you from today's discussion, or if you have any questions, even if you're watching the replay, go ahead and put those in. Let us know what you think. Okay, Jonathan, he's going to let us know when it's okay to cut off the stream there. He's going to do that for us. Hit refresh. I want to make sure